Recording in
Why
progress.
they didn't get it, and that's.
But, yes, so I know last time we were gonna have a little subgroup and Tim and David and Janine were gonna be on that group. To kind of talk about this further. I wonder if you would be willing.
Yeah.
Janine just is, she said, she wants to participate, but she's just not as available.
Busy. Okay,
And so she said, go ahead and start working on it.
okay.
And
Yeah.
then Lisa's put all this together, so I don't know, I certainly don't need to be a part of it, but,
Well, I would like to help, just from my marketing communications brain and how it works, just help to take what you put together into a way that we can have a clear RFP and a corresponding scoring sheet.
That's okay.
so what if?
And hopefully an RFP that with language that is accurate and also plays into our sustainability goals. In terms of,
See, I think
that's a kind of a bigger thing, but
the sustainability goals is, I'd have to talk about that. Because I think, if you look at the millage language, we just want the land protected in farming and open space, And when we start layering other goals, we're putting criteria on it that wasn't part of the initial intent. And while it's desirable, it can get carried too far.
do you think it's okay to protect land and then just use Roundup on it yearly? Is that okay?
Or should we just rank it differently? I mean, I think isn't that the way we can look at
Well-
some of these?
What benefits our township more? What type of?
I would have to actually talk to farmers to find out what do they realistically need to do to have a productive farm that's financially,
Productive is Roundup.
no, I think, no.
I worked at an ad agency and our clients were agronomics. So I sold all that genetically modified seed and I know the drill and I know the materials that farmers get. It will definitely make them more economically sustainable and increase the profit margin.
No,
They need to be able to
not
survive.
Necessarily.
Yeah.
At least back in my day, but anyway,
And we don't want to put criteria on it where it becomes more difficult for them to survive. So,
but wouldn't you say that as a group, we'd prefer to keep the land as healthy as possible? This is,
you've got two different things pulling two different ways, and the reality is probably somewhere in the middle.
you're probably right.
So, let's, rather than,
And let's develop a scoring
Yeah,
system
let's
that
work on that,
accomplishes
yeah.
that. So first off, action item is to enhance the RFP and the RFP scoring process. And we've got a group that will do that.
Let me ask you this, would you be willing to let Daryl take your place? So it could be Daryl, Lisa, and Tim is our farmer.
I wasn't originally on it, but
I know but I'm just asking, you've done a lot of work and I just
Yeah,
think you're a good voice.
let's do this one.
We can meet, even though it's a quorum, as long as we don't make decisions. You can meet as a group.
But putting together this scoring sheet is not making decisions.
Because we have to.
We'd bring it to the whole.
All we're doing is writing
Well,
words.
that's fine then, yeah.
an
I did not know.
RFP comes first.
Yep.
Right? And then the scoring sheet just comes after that. But if we can start with the RFP, that would be great. I'd be happy to, you want me to take Janine's place?
Well, and David's saying that we can't, as long as we don't make decisions, we can meet with more than three
Okay.
members.
That sounds
So
good.
I think we should do that.
Who's gonna be the head of it?
Is Janine definitely?
Well, I think she is, no,
Okay.
I think she'd like to participate, but she's not as available as some of the other
She's
ones.
an architect.
And of course, Lisa works full-time too. But yes,
And we can save most of this for.
and we can bring it back to us then.
Yeah, I just saw this, and I'm going, well, what is this? And,
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Something we need to think about too, I think.
We
Our,
definitely need to include, I'm sorry. Yeah, just want to finish that sentence.
Can I make a motion?
Wait, let him finish.
Viability, economic viability of any applicant. And we're talking about agricultural easement, right? Here, or?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So agriculture is what we're talking about and what we want to encourage for our land. And preserve it.
so we need to make the next RFP follow the criteria. Exactly. And then we need to make the next scoring sheet likewise address those criteria and have some sort of numerical scoring sheet that will make sense. Does that sound like a good goal for your group?
Just a quick question,
Yeah.
something to think about, we don't have to answer it now, but just put it in the back of your mind. We're gonna go through this process, we're gonna have somebody come in, and we're gonna do a BPS, and they're gonna, BPS, and they're gonna set up farming, and they're gonna follow all our requirements and do everything to put in vote. 20 years from now, they pass away, their kids don't wanna farm. Person buys the farm who's not a farmer.
The easement controls.
The easement says it's an agricultural easement, but it doesn't necessarily say they have to farm.
True.
Well-
This whole thing is set up to save farms, and I wanna, and we don't have to do it today, but I wanna expand this perhaps to think about somebody who might wanna preserve the land, but not necessarily farm it for food,
So you're talking about like a place like your place.
like a place like my place.
Mhm.
Yes. Restored environmentally, ecologically restoration rather than a food restoration.
I think that would be absolutely fantastic, and if that we could incorporate that into the RFP to accommodate that.
But we'd have to incorporate it into the criteria.
Yeah, and I think we're going too far down.
Like I said, it's,
Yeah, I mean, that's.
we need two RFPs.
Well, Very know something
had the-
about agriculture.
So in the one time that we've gone through this whole process and chose Vestergaard.
Right.
To buy the Wren's property, in addition to all the regular restrictions on use of the land, it's in any old conservation easement. We did insert, we call it affirmative language, saying that the arable parts of the property have to be put to some agricultural use.
And that's recorded with the deed.
Yep. It's in the easement.
So presumably, see, now here's the thing, it's in the easement.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So anybody who's buying that land has to be made available, has to be made aware of the presence of that easement.
Yep.
And better with conservation easement, normal conservation easements, that's not necessarily the case. In fact, some realtor will tell you is concerned because this big piece of open land looks really great. Oh, I can ride my ATV there, I can cut down all these trees, great. Oh, I can't, I've already bought, that type of thing. So the real estate agents aren't necessarily pushing a conservation easement because not everybody wants one. So my concern is, will someone who's buying this land, reputable real estate agents will make sure they know, but someone may not.
It's certainly
So
possible.
I guess the question is, what do we do about that?
Well,
We don't have to answer it today.
But I'll say that the properties that have been listed recently, it's very prominent that this property has a conservation easement on it. There are limitations on it. It's a recorded document, so if you're doing your due diligence to buy a property, you're gonna go into the title and find that. Or get a title commitment from a title company. There are certainly properties that do not get listed, and still change hands. I generally get notice of that. There was one just in Webster recently that never went up for sale, sold to a neighbor, basically. And as soon as I heard that, I got the contact info, I sent them a letter, we're getting together next week. I'm handing them a copy of the easement and the baseline, we're having a conversation about that. I think they understand it anyway, but even if it was somebody who didn't know that, I jump in there right away and make sure that they understand these things and what they can do and what they can't do on the property. It's not infallible, but we haven't had a problem with that to date. But, we need to look, 20 and 50 years into the future as well. But, and if it was somebody buying the Vestergaard property going forward, I would think that I would hear about that, in advance. And be able to step in and say, this is, I'll make sure, not in addition to the restrictions on the property, you also gotta put this land to an ag use. You don't have to do it yourself. It's just, you have to rent it out or otherwise put it to an ag use. It doesn't have to be you personally doing that.
Don't some of these conservation easements, doesn't the state have something about a 50-year life expectancy or a lifetime on some of these conservation easements? You can buy it back after 50 years.
In the statute, passed by the legislature 25 years ago, I think it was. It said that you have to specify, well, I said, in the statute, it says that a local ordinance has to specify how the rights can be repurchased. Didn't give any more information from that. So most of these ordinances that we drafted years ago said that 50 years has to pass, and then you have to make the owner has to make the case that it's no longer agriculturally viable. And even if there's support for that, I think it's a pretty tough case to make, because we're still human beings, we're going to eat food. And even if it's surrounded by a residential development, you can still, grow food on it and sell it to your neighbors. That's an agriculturally viable enterprise, but nevertheless. That if the board of trustees says, we agree with you that it's not agriculturally viable anymore, we have the right to purchase the property, the remaining fee interest in the property. And so it wouldn't be reselling the development rights back to the owner so they could do what they wanted to do, be purchasing the remaining value of the property. So we put up a whole bunch of hurdles.
Okay,
To make it virtually impossible.
All right, moving on, sorry.
One quick question. So when we put a conservation easement on agricultural land, it specifies it has to be retained in agricultural use?
We've only done that once so far. That was on the Wren's properties, now owned by Vestergaard.
Well, that's a buy, purchase, sell. But if we go, with some of these other properties, we've looked at buying a conservation easement from an active farm. Does that conservation easement that we buy specify that the land has to stay in farming?
No.
I don't think it's reasonable to put additional expectations then on. I mean, our concern is that it stays open, right? And if 20 years from now, if it isn't being used as farm, it's still kept as open land,
Sure.
we're good.
We took the additional step on that property, and Arbor Township has done it on 4 or 5 properties now. Smaller properties, less than 40 acres, because they didn't want to just grow up to weeds. They wanted to support local agricultural production. And so we followed that lead so far only on the Wren's property.
Only on the rents, okay.
And the AFP, American Farming,
AFT,
huh?
American Farmland Trust.
Yeah, American Farmland Trust is very much focused on agricultural easement.
Then,
And so is that group out in Washington that we reviewed. And I think that's what they are focused on. At any rate, it's up to us to decide whether we'd like to support an agricultural easement for whatever piece of property comes up in the BPS, domain or not.
okay.
So
Alright.
before next month's meeting, do you think it would be possible for all of you and Barry maybe to get together and kind of talk about these things and refine the scoring so it follows the criteria a little more closely? And you can talk about numerical values and that sort of thing, so that we can go into our next project with something that's ready to go.
Okay.
And I wonder if even the criteria needs enhancing.
Well, that would be, I think we'd have to go to the board with that.
Yeah, because the criteria is
Yeah, I
spelled
think that's
out in
been
an
passed.
official
I think
document.
we'd want to work with what we have right
Yeah.
now, which are pretty, I think they're pretty good.
Okay.
it's it's a pretty good list.
Yeah,
It
Okay.
just, it felt like we were adding a bunch of stuff to it, so.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That'll be great. And is it, yeah, do you want to, Lisa, do you want to organize it at sometime that works for you? Because you have your job too, but
Sure.
if you can, or tell me how I
Yeah.
can help, but
No,
I don't know
I'll
how.
I'll send out a Google invite. So,
Okay.
Do I know how to answer that? Okay, give it a-
Skill.
I'll have to learn a new skill.
What's the 3 or 4 different things?
Emails work too.
Start.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I will organize.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, let's see here. David, your term, I'm just reminding you that your term ends next month.
Yes.
So if you need to get in touch with Barb and let her know that you're still interested, or the board, I mean, you're obviously pretty well connected, so I expect they know
I keep forgetting to tell them.
that you might be interested, but anyway, I'm just
Be
noting.
sure to spruce up your resume and resubmit it.
Yeah, right. Right. And then Janine and Tim are just,
Resume is on
I'm gonna remind you again. Okay? Attendance, and it would be November 13th. Does anyone, I'm hoping the other two will be here with us again. Does anyone know they will not be here on November 13th? Okay, great. New business. I would like to address our proposed meeting dates for 2026 first. That is, I just sent the item I sent you just has the second Thursday again. Same dates that we have had for the past many years from 4 to 6 p.m. Does that seem okay?
Second Tuesday.
Okay, so I need a motion that we
I motion to approve the dates.
you approve the dates and send them to the board. And is there a support for that
I'll
motion?
support.
Support.
Wait,
Support
this is
from
under new business?
Tim, yeah, this is
It's a
yes.
new item.
Proposed
It's
meeting
got-
dates were added to new business,
Oh, I see.
because I sent that out late. I learned about this request today. Okay, so all in favor of those, keeping those second Thursdays from 4 to 6? All in favor?
Aye.
And who made that motion? Daryl?
Daryl and Tim.
And second.
And Tim seconded.
Mhm.
Supported Daryl's.
And I support too.
All in favor? I think we have all ayes.
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay, I will get that to Barb. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is Barry's contract. Barry's contract is up for renewal on December 31st. It will expire. And as you all are aware, he has done some fabulous work for us this year. His contract, he forwarded me his contract that is existing, and here it is in your materials. So I wanted to, talk about renewing that. My own, the motion that I would make is that we renew, we recommend approval of renewal of Barry's consulting contract for 2 years, which was our traditional, the term of his contract. The term that his contract has been until this year. But in any case, renewal of the contract, my wish would be for 2 years, but I would like to have discussion about what anyone else thinks about that.
Well, I just became privy of the desire to put out an RFP for this. And knowing the time frame, I just did a little research about what would entail to do this and to do this well with promoting it and getting the word out and doing best practices. So if we really wanted to do that, I mean, we've got the best consultant ever, and as far as I'm concerned, but for fiscal responsibility to just, make sure that there's not somebody even better than Barry, we could do that, but I think that might merit, maybe we renew for 1 year. And then that would give David and Jessica and others more time to pursue this process. And maybe that will even coincide with if Barry's moving toward, I don't know, possibly moving toward retirement goals, maybe it would be a win-win for everybody. So I don't know, I'm just trying to find some compromise.
I am, Jessica feels fairly certain that we can get this done by the end of December. But we have to read this document. She put this together with, we had a meeting a couple weeks ago. We talked about, monitoring process, the process that Barry goes through, I tried to describe it as best I could, and I think I did a fairly good job. She kind of boiled it down into this, a two-part RFP. That people can respond to part A, part B, or part both, both parts. If they want to do, if whoever is responding, and I would expect Barry to do both parts. Daryl has some concerns about one or two of the positions of, oh no, I keep, I'm just putting it away. About one or two of the
Part B.
requirements in part B. I
First
think,
bullet.
I think they're valid concerns. So what we need to do is redline this. Well, here's the thing. I sent you a PDF of this document. I can send you the Word if you wanna actually read, if you wanna.
Edit,
Oh, I'm sorry,
edit it.
edit
yeah.
it, yeah.
Well, let me, say first, this is new information. I learned about this just last week when I happened to call David and I said Barry's contract is up for renewal. Just wanted to let you know, you're our board rep. And David said, we've had this meeting. And who did you say was at the meeting? It's a meeting with, who was there?
I have so many, which one was it? Jessica, me, Murphy, Christie, and might have been Mariah, I'm not sure, but anyway.
Mariah was there?
Our attorney?
No,
I can't, no, that was another meeting.
Mariah wasn't there, yeah. And so other board members, just you and,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
who did? Who
It
did
wasn't
this?
Mariah, it was Chris.
Oh, yeah, you were there, yeah.
Sorry.
Happens all the time.
Sorry.
You and Mariah. So two board members were there, you and Jessica?
Yes.
Okay, so my first question would be, is the intention that all township consulting positions be put out for RFP from now
Well,
on?
that was the intention, and I'll tell you, that was the intention a year ago.
Mhm.
And we've had a year to work on this process, and this is the first one that I've become aware of. And I think there's a lot of issues, and I don't need to go into details, but one of the major issues is we do not have a township manager, or what is now being called director of operations. So everyone is scrambling to do things. The board has taken positions, the duties of the township manager, and divided them up between board members. So everybody's doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No one in writing our RFPs.
So that's why you're saying it's taken a while to get around to this?
Yes, and it's because there's so much, there's a German phrase, Sturm und Drang. Okay, anyone familiar with that? So much turmoil.
Okay.
That things aren't getting done that should be getting done. So.
So so what?
So let's add more turmoil. Let's add more turmoil to that
Um,
turmoil.
So the desire would be to have every consultant position to be bid.
Okay.
Which means, of course, putting out a bid for OHM, putting out a bid for Carlisle Wortman, putting out a bid for whoever does our snow plowing, Barry, or excuse me. So as not to personalize this, our LPC consultant. Those are the four contracts that I'm aware of.
Okay, the,
So
so the board next, oh, Tim, go ahead, please.
who would be the deciding group on which of the applicants, via RFP would be?
Well, that's a real good question. Presumably what the
Who evaluates?
I'm sorry?
Who evaluates?
Yeah, that's, and I'm trying to think, see, this is.
Well, this hasn't gone before the whole board. This is just you and Jessica that are working on
Yes,
this, right?
you have to take this to the board.
Okay.
Correct. And then I,
So you don't have, you haven't gotten
the,
that far.
my first impression would be the board, but I'm not sure that's the right group.
No.
So-
'cause
No,
they'll
they
be
were
looking for
easily
us.
bamboozled and this is a very specialized position. And we have had, you know, to compare an RFP with a snow blower compared to the 20-year relationship
We
building.
have the same
expertise.
relationship with Carlisle Wortman and OHL.
Well,
We've had it for 20 years without a bid.
I just, it feels a little inhumane and not kind to just be rushing through an RFP for Barry's job when he's done a fabulous job. It just feels, you know, in today's world where that is so cruel, it just seems like a little bit more cruel, and I would propose not moving forward with an RFP, or if you're really dead set to do it, maybe do another one first, or,
Do another one, what, another contract?
yeah, I don't know which ones are, you know.
Well, I can help with that. The board next meets Tuesday, October the 14th. Agenda, there are 2 items on the consent agenda. Item number J2 is approval of a contract with Orbis Environmental Consulting for $38,000. Was that put out for a bid via an RFP?
No.
Oh.
Agenda, also on the consent agenda, next
Wait a minute,
Tuesday.
I say no, to my knowledge, no. Go ahead.
Also on the consent agenda for next Tuesday is item number J11. That is approval of a consulting contract with Dr. Stephen J. Wright, who evaluates aquifer capacity. Was that put out for bid via an RFP?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, so is it correct that it is not the intention of the township board to put all township consulting work out for bids via RFPs?
Well, I see where you're coming from, and it sure looks like it. The only thing I can think of, this is not, this is me talking, not the board. These might be one-time things. The Carlisle Wortman, OHM, the LPC consultant are, for all intents and purposes, permanent jobs. I have been an advocate of pulling a lot of, I think we should have our own planner and our own engineer, and we shouldn't contract it out. We should only contract out what we need. If the particular person doesn't have that particular knowledge, then we would contract that out. There's some talk on the board of having our own, bringing monitoring in-house. You know, the monitoring, that's not a big, there's not a big cost thing involved. It's not necessarily a financial thing. It's something to keep, to make things like Botsford not happen again. Because if a staff person is involved as opposed to a consultant being involved, but that was not Barry's issue. That was Carlisle Wortman's issue. But so there's, anyway, so I will, I mean, you make a very strong case. I understand where you're coming from and make a really strong case. Why are we doing it for some and not all? It's your,
These are all consulting contracts, every single one
Well,
of them is.
they're not,
I see what you're trying to draw a distinction. I can draw the same distinction.
Well, you
but they are all
either do it or you
consulting
don't.
You either do it for everybody or you
and they're
don't.
not, yeah, these, okay, yes.
And the timing of this makes me think that there's a board member who wants to do this for the land preservation consulting contract only.
Well, and it does look, well, no. It's my understanding we do this for all our consulting, but you bring this up and it's a really good question. Why are we doing this and why are we doing this and not that?
Yeah, these are on the consent agenda for next week, so it's not, there's gonna be no discussion.
Right. Right.
So unless they're removed from the consent agenda.
Right.
I suggest that that is not proper for the
Right.
board to do.
And from a practical standpoint, this is October 9th.
I know.
Contract's over on December
I
31st.
know, I know.
And they're just beginning to draft the concept of an RFP that then has to be put out. And you still have to receive, in a certain amount of time, it has to be put out there. You have to have time to receive the applicants, and then you have to have time to evaluate and select, and then you have to have a hiring period.
Yep, yep.
This is, if they're gonna do, they talked about doing this last year.
Oh, yeah.
This process
Yeah.
of figuring out what it looks like should have been
Has to be
done much
April.
earlier than,
Used to start this in
It
April.
would, t-
yeah.
it
Yeah,
would take
so-
about 5.5 months from my analysis.
So
Well, that's-
given the timing of this,
Well, let me, if I'm right there with you, and when, after you called Liz, I immediately sent a note to Jessica saying, hey, where are we with the RFPs? And she said, oh, and that was 2 weeks ago, when, I think we had that conversation 2 weeks ago.
it's
I
right.
got this today,
Yeah,
so,
At 2:53 and,
actually it was a little earlier.
oh,
I
well,
was
to
out-
us at
Yes.
2:53. So
Yeah.
it just feels sort of forced upon the group because of one person's.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing. As I said, I said, this would take, to do this right, it takes 3 to 4 months at least.
Yes. And
It took us a year to do the RFP and the contract for the garden. And that's a whole different,
That's how it's.
So it's a ball.
totally different, 6 months worth of, for contract.
But regarding the RFPs, there has to be a period of time before the expiration of whatever contract is being considered. There has to be 3 month, 6 month, I don't know what it would be, but it's got to be, you know, it can't happen 2 weeks ahead of time. That probably shouldn't happen 2.5 months ahead of time. The decision to go out, get an RFP for this contract, right? I mean, there's gotta be some.
Oh, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. So-
I told Jessica, we should just go with another contract, start this process in January or February,
Yes.
whatever, do it right. This is not doing it right.
and
Yeah,
do
actually,
it for everyone
No,
across the
I'm
board.
not pointing.
Hey, yeah, and I'm gonna ask
Trying
her,
to give you ammunition.
yes.
So,
So our feedback is no to
Well,
this.
well, wait, I wanna say one more thing. Are you aware of any problems that anyone in the board or in the township has with Barry's work?
Am I aware of any problems with Barry's work? I think at one point in time, there was an issue with, documents were not being,
That was a year ago, right?
Yeah.
And, but
that-
you're,
I believe
so
that-
since
that's
then,
been
are you
taken care of.
aware? That's
No.
been taken care of. Are you aware, have you heard anything from any board member about problems with Barry's work this year?
Absolutely not.
And I haven't either. So you aren't either, Dave. None of us that sit on this group are aware of any problems. And I must say, I have thought Barry has done outstanding work this year for us. I would expect that any board member or any person in this township who has a problem with Barry's work would come to me or Lisa or you and tell us so that we can address it, because that's our job. And so if we are not aware of something that is upsetting someone, we should know. Because that's what we're here for. We are volunteers, but we are in charge here. And that's what we're here to address. So I'm assuming, since I haven't heard anything, you haven't, and Lisa hasn't, that there aren't any problems. And I don't know why this would be targeted for our group and not anyone else, which I think we have talked about that and addressed that. Yeah. did you
so,
say-
there's 2 issues here. One is the timing of this.
Yeah.
So as a board, I'd like for us to suggest that this year, once again, we renew Barry's contract for a year and start this process early. I mean, requiring RFPs, it's a good thing. But start this process early next year for the following year, because this is too short a time.
Yeah.
But that's one issue. The other issue, in looking at this RFP proposal concept, I have a real issue with Part B, the first bullet, where it says provide standard land preservation review of every submitted preliminary site plan, PUD, rezoning application, and related applications for ecological impacts in alignment with land preservation goals. That's an environmental planner. Do you want to be an environment?
That's not my skill set.
That's not your skill set. I did this kind of work for Larimer County Parks and Open Lands. And it's a different kind of skill set. It doesn't belong with what Barry's doing.
And so the best person to help put out an RFP for Barry's job is Barry, because otherwise we're gonna.
Well, no,
We're
because
not- yeah.
it's, appearances is always important.
I know, but
The
somebody. like-
contractor doesn't do this, but we know what we need. And I don't know if anyone else is familiar with environmental planning, but we do not need that. That's a different job. Then it does not meet the criteria that Elkins. So
Are you in support of doing an RFP?
I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to,
Be responsible.
be responsible. Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. And frankly, Barry would be very competitive in that process.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned about the process. But doing it every year is distracting.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
think if
we
you-
waste time on it every year. And so a 2-year contract would be more appropriate. And they need to be going through this process of what that RFP looks like much earlier than October 9th, when the contract runs out of December.
Well, Liz, would you want to revisit your motion?
I am going to make a motion, that we, recommend to the board approval of a renewal of Barry Lennox contract for 2 years. Now I will entertain other motions, but that is my motion. And, whatever the board wants to do, that's a separate issue on RFPs. Of course, David knows what we've discussed here. You can take that back to the board. And thank you for listening. And I really feel as if you've gotten what we're saying. And you understand that.
The other problem with the 2 years is we went through that battle last year. And so.
I know, that's why I don't want.
Yeah, but it's like we already know the 2 years is gonna be a battle.
we
Why don't we
did- yeah.
just do it for 1 year and then let them put this in place and hopefully for an RFP for a 2-year contract?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm willing, Lisa was you were gonna propose a 1 year too. I will vote for either one.
Yeah.
Because we have such momentum, I would like to continue without interruption. We've done great things this year. I am very excited about it and I want us to continue. So that's where I'm coming from on the 2 years.
Yeah, I just think that that's
Thank
heading
you.
into a battle.
I don't think I'm totally with you, Liz, but I don't think that 2-year battle is a battle we can win.
Yeah, we may not win the one either, but I'm with you.
Well, I
Yeah,
think-
okay.
I think we almost need to more focus on what this RFP is gonna look like, because it's like pick your battles and,
Mhm.
and
We don't need to do that now, though. I think we can. do
well,
one
no,
thing
the
at a-
battle we're having now is whether they're gonna try to slam dunk an RFP before the end of the year. That's our battle.
Well, I
Wait,
don't
if
think
they're gonna
so.
do what?
I don't think so. That has not even gone before the board. That is something that Jessica created and gave to David today.
We could really embarrass ourselves if we sent out an RFP that had things on it that makes us look like we don't know what we're talking about. And I know that because my department at the U has done that very same thing. And there are organizations that we could, work with to help with the process.
And, excuse me if I may interrupt.
Still fine.
I would ask you all, and I will, if you would prefer to work on a Word document, I can send you the Word document. If you prefer to just write notes or, like, send me an email and Chris and me an email so we can combine these things together. I don't expect this thing to happen this year because I told Jessica we don't have enough time. She seems to think we do. I don't think we do. But especially.
If we do that, David, and an RFP goes out for this position, it doesn't address any of the problems with not RFPing other consultant positions. It targets Barry Lonnick's contract. And that I'm not willing to do. That's the board's
So-
problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm finished.
Also, there's only, let's say, 2.5 months, and for the contractor, in this case, let's talk about Barrett. You know, I mean, if Jessica thinks it can be done by the end of the year, but what if it can't? You know, what if it takes another month or even two? He's out of a job.
And we're out of it.
We're out of a consultant. So it's like, that doesn't
Yeah,
make
well,
sense.
It's creating
This
turmoil.
last year and
Yes.
this whole, and we had a problem at the end of the year when Barry's contract ran out and they didn't have the contract renewed, and it's like we're repeating this thing over again.
That's
And
right.
it came
That's
from the
right.
same source, and I'm really,
It did.
I don't like to see a personal animosity to dictate what we're doing as a township. We're here to do good work for the community, and this program is tax millage funded, so to.
And
to-
very
to-
inexpensive. You charge nothing. Barry, do you have a ballpark of what you have charged recently to the township?
Yeah.
It's not nothing.
Oh, monthly.
Not
it's about
nothing.
four-
Okay, but
Last,
$5,000.
compared to the environmental consulting, $30,000 to $80,000, where do you come?
so in the last 2 years of audited numbers were about $30,000
Okay,
Each year.
each year.
Right.
And, you know, before that was 43 and there was a 53, but, you know, over the course of 20 years, it's about $30,000 a year.
And this year it'll be more because it's a much
Yeah.
more active
Oh,
year,
yeah.
but yeah, but it's,
I
Well-
wish we could do something to stop this annual warpath from us.
I think,
Against
yeah,
Barry.
I think if we could address the personality problems, if there are problems, please come to Lisa and me. You know, I'm just asking you to be the bearer of the news to whoever it goes to, because if we know of problems, we will address them. We have no problems. We are sailing along. We are doing good work here, and we are very happy with what Barry's doing. If there are problems, someone needs to come and tell us, and you too, you're a part of this too. And apart from that, it is not our job to create an RFP right now. It is our job to get our consultant's contract renewed for at least another year. And if the board wants to develop a policy that they're gonna RFP all consultant work, let the board do that. And then we can sit down and work on whatever the board wants us to work on, but this is premature.
So
And I don't-
let's reach a conclusion.
Yeah.
That,
Okay, there's a motion out here to recommend a renewal of Barry's contract for either 2 years, but I will go with one of people. Okay with
yeah, I think it should be one.
that. Okay,
yeah.
right now.
I
It's
agree
more
with
likely
this one.
to be passed, and I think we're showing goodwill compromise. If they are serious about doing an RFP, that we hope that they do it for all consultant positions. And this is a way of
And-
compromising, so they have time to do that.
put it into
So-
next week.
To move, are you willing to?
Yeah, so do the one.
Now, I'd like to move that we recommend to the board a year's extension for Barry Lennox contract.
Support,
I
support by Daryl, all in favor,
Aye.
opposed? The motion is approved. Thank you all.
And rather than a recommendation, how do we just give the suggestion that we would be willing to work with the board, developing an option next year in a more timely
If-
fashion?
The board passes a policy to RFP.
Well, yeah,
It has to be part of it, because I am not willing to have our consultants singled out like this. And I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what we have seen in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
That is not okay with me as the leader, as the co-leader of this group. I think that's wrong.
I think a 2-year contract will be.
Yeah, no, you're right.
At the next step.
Okay.
I think if we go through an RFP process,
Mhm.
it would be more likely to be either, I can't remember what Carlisle, Wortman's and OHM's contract is. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. But it would be my impression that if we go through a proper RFP process, it will be whatever that is, either 2 or 3 years. It won't be 1.
Could we add language to the recommendation to the Board of Trustees that this only be done as part of our portfolio of Scio RFPs for like,
That's a separate issue, but I think we could certainly make a recommendation, but I think we could recommend that if the board decides to, we do RFPs for any consulting work, that it do RFPs for all consulting work.
can we put that into the recommendation?
Not into that.
No, it'll tell her, it'll tell her the recommendation.
Right.
Keep
It would be a separate recommendation if we want to do that. I don't know that we need to do that.
That's not, yeah.
Okay,
That's.
But it's a good point that was brought up here that you could bring it up in your
I
discussion.
will bring up, and I think there's a differentiation between what those contracts vary, OHM, Carlisle One and so on. So,
Mhm.
you know, what's different, a one-time thing is different than a recurring
Recurring.
annual, multi-year thing. These were not, I don't believe these are multi-year contracts. I believe these are for one purpose.
Although technically from the arguments that they presented on why they want RFPs, it should be done
Technically,
every
yep,
single.
fair.
That's right.
Consultants, it's a contract. You're absolutely right. So
Okay, if we're finished with that, let's move on to our open session consultants report and project update, Barry.
Yes, so for other matters, we got word, we talked about the RCPP previously, but the Federal Agricultural Conservation Easement Program apparently is ramping up again. There was supposed to be a webinar tomorrow. But with the federal government shutdown, I assume that that's not happening. I've sent emails to staff people and I get a sort of standard response back that they're on furlough and don't have any access to their emails. So I'm assuming that's off, but it appears that there will be another round of
this is ASAP.
ASAP funding.
Okay.
But everything's in flux these days. The Bluebelt, the extension of the Ann Arbor Greenbelt was approved by the advisory committee. That's going to be coming online here in the short term. That will cover the remaining third of the western third of the township. And I've forwarded applications to staff already saying of these properties that might qualify for this.
Is that public knowledge yet? The Bluebelt?
I don't know if they've done a press release on it.
It sounded like they had, it's not exactly out yet, so.
I would say that's true. For the Greenbelt Commission in a public meeting did approve moving ahead with this. So in that sense, it's
Yeah.
public. But I don't think they've put it out.
Yeah, I don't know. By the time these minutes get on, we'll probably be up.
Is there any,
I don't think there's any need to dance around. that. I
Okay.
think it's approved. Everybody acknowledges.
is there a map showing the blue belt parameters? Is there some?
There will be.
There
I
will
mean, they may have that, but it'll be part of the package that they.
Okay,
they
all
submit.
right.
But it's basically everything in the Huron River watershed upstream of Barton Pond. In Washtenaw County. That version.
So I just wonder where it is in Scio Township.
It goes all the way into Lima Township. And so
Oh.
my
But it doesn't
understanding.
cover the whole township, does it?
So the green belt will still be the eastern 2/3 of the township. That
Okay.
doesn't change. But then the western third of the township will be in the blue belt.
Oh,
And that will be for properties that either have a stream on it or where there are identified groundwater recharge areas.
oh, so all of Scio Township will be covered either by the green or the blue? Oh, you're kidding. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So there's a property that we will discuss in closed session that has a stream on it. And they like to have natural vegetative buffers on both sides of the stream. We have a property
Great.
that we're considering along those lines,
So
so.
will there be a Blue Belt Commission or is the Green Belt gonna become the Teal Commission?
It'd be the Teal Commission. Yes, they will deal with all of these applications. And a quick update on the ongoing PA 116 issue. We're still working on legislation. The Scio landowner who filed lawsuit succeeded with the state and is getting paid their tax credits. There was also indication from a couple of landowners that they got letters saying that unless the landowners pursued the state's process of having the easements amended to include the state as a grantee, that they would not be eligible for tax credits, in 2025. However, with the successful lawsuit by the Scio Township landowner and the fact that I'm aware of an Ann Arbor Township landowner and a Freedom Township landowner who got their tax credits paid, there seems to be a disconnect there. And the answer may be, well, I guess you have to sue the state.
Yeah.
And you'll succeed. But we're continuing to work on that. We had a farm tour on Saturday that went to 3 farms. The Vester Garden Farm was one of them. We had 25 or 30 people that came. Mostly just regular folks wanting to learn more about farming and conservation easements, which was great. It was sponsored by a number of local conservation organizations. But I thought that went very well.
What was that one called?
I think we just called it Washington County Farm Tour, Conserved Farm Tour.
Where was that publicized? I looked for information on that. I couldn't find any.
It was on the county conservation district website. I know, and a couple of other ones. We had a limited capacity based on, the ability to park cars on these properties. And we had people to sign up in advance.
Okay.
And it sold out real
Oh,
quick.
all right.
So
Well, I didn't
before
know.
I had a chance to get it on the Scio Township website, for example, it was
Yeah.
already sold out. And some people didn't come. So we probably could have had a little larger capacity.
How many people came?
I think it was 25 to 30, I would say, of regular folks plus me. I did a little presentation there. Greenbelt was there and talked about that program. County Parks was there and talked about their program, just to sort of give everybody, background information on how we all work together and we all these villages, how these programs work. Just I added a couple of quick things since I sent you these notes, and that was that suddenly data centers are popping up everywhere. I don't know if we have any concern about that here in Scio, but I know I was involved in some discussions in Saline Township. I know there's one in Ypsilanti Township and there's somewhere else here in this county. It just out of nowhere, those things are popping up. They're using up large amounts of land. The one in Saline Township, they were talking about, I think it was 600 acres. They were purchasing maybe more, of which they're going to use, a good chunk of it, 250 acres, something like that, and supposedly conserving the rest. But
Township turned it down.
they did turn them down, and the next day, the landowners and the developers of the center sued. And there was a feeling that the lawsuit would be successful based on exclusionary zoning. That is, that there wasn't commercial or industrial zoning in Saline Township, which is kind of all. And so it was a meeting last week of the board of trustees, where there was a vote to for a consent judgment on the property. I think there was an initial offering from the developers, the plaintiffs, and the township responded by saying, we'll take those things and we'd like to go all other things as well. One of them was money for farmland preservation, for buying conservation easements. So there are negotiations about that now. We'll see where that goes. But just, thought it was interesting that I hadn't heard these things at all around here anyway.
Data center.
Pardon?
Data center.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But all of a sudden they're just exploding around here, and it appears to be where there are the transmission corridors with the access to large amounts of electricity
And water.
and water in many cases too. The one in Saline Township, they were saying they weren't going to use water for their cooling process. They had some other process. So that was one of the concerns that got addressed about that.
You said Saline Township and where?
There was one in Ypsilanti Township I heard of, and there was another one somewhere in Washington County. And then I heard about one in Livingston County also, and I'm sure there are lots of other. In fact, there was an article in MLive about this, and they talked about 3 here in Washtenaw, but there were, I think, 7 others that were in a development stage that hadn't been formally proposed yet. So, yeah, it's like, boom, all of a sudden.
It adds urgency to what we do.
It sure does. The other thing I learned in Saline Township, by the way, was that there is a over 2,000 acre solar array being proposed with a number of different landowners involved. And that has been, you can do it at a local level or you can go directly to the state or appeal to the state. And so that's being considered by the state at this point. So all of a sudden, we're, looking at 3,000 acres of farmland in Saline Township.
If you drive west on 94, there are solar farms on either side of the road for as far as the eye can see.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just, and I do think that, implies the urgency of the work that we do here, because they're all looking for large chunks of land. And, as well as the transmission corridors. And if you don't have large chunks of land, then you're not gonna attract that. And then finally, I sent out my easement monitoring letters last week. I'm making calls this week, so I'll be doing those visits.
So a new batch of monitoring letters went out?
They went out last week.
Oh, okay, not prospective conservation easement.
No.
This is the letters to tell them you're coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm following up with calls this week.
And farmers are having a tough time making money
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
these days. They're having a tough time making money, so that when the offers come along, from groups such as Barry's talking about, it's very attractive
Yeah.
to farmers.
And they're talking huge dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
way beyond what a residential developer would pay for a property. Whether it's purchase like it is for this data center or a lease, for the solar arrays, it's huge money. But there are people who don't want to do those things. And so the pitch that we made to Saline Township was ask them for money to buy conservation easements on property. So we can offer that as an alternative.
I like that idea.
We'll see where that goes.
Barry, do you know if the solar people who get a cut like if you had an oil well, you get a piece of the oil that comes out of the ground. If you have a solar farm, you get or do they actually buy outright the property and?
I think it's both.
Okay.
And I don't know the situation there, but sometimes they're just leasing land for 20 years and sometimes they're buying.
So they just get a lease payment, they don't get a cut of the profit.
Yeah, the lease payments are substantial.
Okay.
Yeah. And in terms of projects, we have 3 under contract at this point. On the Hicks property, we needed to get a wetland determination for the property. That's been done by NRCS staff, thankfully, not me. And I just revised the baseline accordingly to reflect that. I got comments on the easement from the federal program, nothing unusual, and so we'll be accepting those, and that should take care of that. And so I think with that, we have everything that we need to move toward closing whenever there's a federal government again. So
Real quick, what are the other two? You said Hicks and,
I'm coming.
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
were.
that's just on Hicks. But until there's, a resolution of the budget mess, then there's no staff people that can review things and approve things and go through there. So hopefully that will happen sometime soon. The second one is Fletcher. The ESA was clean on that. The survey is done. And actually, I said that I completed the baseline. I'm still working on that a little bit. But pretty much there. I did the photo pages today, which is a big chunk of that. And I'll give a copy of that to Carol. And when she says yes to that, then we can move toward closing on that one. And the third one is the Lobato property. She did sign the purchase agreement, as did township personnel. And I got the baseline to her and she accepted that.
Yeah,
3 acres?
Pardon?
All 3 acres?
Yes, 3.44 acres.
Oh, 4, sorry.
And then the one other thing that I came across was, this started so long ago, we were using a different attorney, Joe Fazio. And because the property doesn't have any public road frontage, he had drafted an access easement down the private road, Hawk Crest Drive, so that we can actually access the property for monitoring purposes. And so I forwarded that on to Mariah, and followed up with her today. And I haven't heard from her about that, whether she thinks it's A, necessary, which I think it is, and B, if she has any comments on that. So as soon as she gives me that, we can close on that.
And so Hicks, Fletcher and Lovato can close this year, we hope. Yeah,
I would say because we're not dealing with the federal government on
Right.
Fletcher and Lovato, definitely those.
yeah. I get
And
it,
I hope that
I
it
get
will
that
too. I
point.
mean, we got 2.5 months.
Yeah.
I would hope that we'd have a
right,
government by then.
okay.
So that's everything for the open session.
And then what about, why don't you summarize closed session topics?
Yes.
We can have public comments.
That comes next, right?
Yep,
Yes.
maybe the summary and then we have a comment.
Oh, I see.
So we have, an update on property that the Board of Trustees approved the purchase for, but we're not under contract yet. Well, we're close. There was another property that the board approved to purchase and a couple of offers were made, but not accepted. And so we'll have a little discussion about that. And then finally, we have a property, that we have the appraisal on now. It's a fee simple purchase, in addition to a preserve. And there's an opportunity to make a recommendation to the board, to purchase that property. So there could be, likely will be, a motion back in the open session after the closed session. That would be the only one though, I think. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Barry. Public comments, there's no one here. Chris, is one online? Nobody online, my goodness, I don't know if that's ever happened.
No.
So I move to go into closed session.
Will you read our little paragraph, please?
Oh, I move that we go into closed session for a discussion of pending property evaluations pursuant to section 15.268B of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, specifically to consider the purchase or lease of real property up to the time and option to purchase or lease that real property is obtained.
We need a roll call vote for that. Support by Tim, and then we do a roll call vote.
Lisa Pappas, yes. David Reed?
Yes.
Tim Redmond?
Yes.
Liz Wiseman?
Yes.
Yeah, work hard, yes.
Okay, there you go.
Motion is approved. We are going into closed session.